Hello, sports fans. Great to be back with you. Let's start in the NHL, where things were turned upside down last night in the Eastern Conference. The Washington Capitals go into Pittsburgh and beat the Penguins 3-2 in overtime. Penguins still lead the series 2-1. Penguins still have home ice. But the big story, Sidney Crosby, how long is he going to be out? He goes out with an apparent head injury early in the game. He does not return. Ovechkin originally hits him in the head with his stick. Then Niskanen finishes him off. Niskanen gets thrown out. I mean, this could be a terrible blow for the Pittsburgh Penguins and an unbelievable break for Washington. Let's make no mistake about it. Pittsburgh won the first two games in Washington, won the second game easily. Pittsburgh looked like the better team, just like they were last year. Washington, looked like the same old Washington in the playoffs. They're not going to get it done. They're going to go out early, and they get a huge break here. The Penguins have had a lot of injuries. They've overcome a lot. I mean, the goalie, Murray, he's not back, but Fleury's playing well. Penguins lost their top defenseman, Letang. They still were playing well without him, but you cannot replace Sidney Crosby. If Sidney Crosby's out for any length of time, Pittsburgh is not going to be able to win. So Washington would get a huge break. Now, Pittsburgh's been hush-hush on this so far. I mean, we don't know what the story is. But with Sidney Crosby's history of head injuries, would it shock you at all if he misses the rest of the series? I can't see him playing tomorrow either. But we'll see. The Penguins need Sidney Crosby in the worst way. I mean, you saw that on the power play last night. The Penguins were 0 for 5 on the power play. Crosby is the captain of that power play. He's one of the best players, if not the best player in the NHL. It's the equivalent of taking Michael Jordan out of a series. I mean, it really is. So this was a terrible blow for the Pittsburgh Penguins and a lucky break for the Washington Capitals. And as it was, the game still went into overtime, and Washington had a score on a power play in overtime just to win last night. So this was a big break for Washington because I think they were going out early again. As far as some of the other stuff, listen, I couldn't tell you if it was intentional or not. The thing that gets lost in this whole thing is Ovechkin originally hits him in the head. No one's talking about that. They keep talking about Niskanen, after Crosby was stumbling and Niskanen finished him off there. Ovechkin originally hit him in the head with the stick. No one's talking about that. And then you got Barry Melrose after the game. Don't listen to anything Barry Melrose says. Barry Melrose last year picked every series wrong. He gets every series wrong. He likes the West Coast. Barry Melrose, I mean, just take him with a grain of salt. And that's the same thing for Mike Milbury on the NHL Network. Mike Milbury was one of the worst GMs in the history of the NHL when he was the GM for the New York Islanders. He was so bad with the Islanders that they thought he had infiltrated the Islanders because he used to play for the Rangers and he wanted to make the Islanders bad so the Rangers would be better than him. That's how bad Mike Milbury was with the Islanders, so you could take him with a grain of salt as well. I mean, so that's the story there. You got to see if Sidney Crosby comes back. If he does not, I cannot see Pittsburgh winning the series. If he does, they still have a good chance. Hard for me to think he's going to play tomorrow. He's got to be out at least a few days, if not longer, especially with his history of concussions. So that is a terrible loss for Pittsburgh. And let me say this one more thing, and this is going to annoy the Capital fans. And listen, I picked the Capitals to win the Stanley Cup. If Washington goes on to win this series and goes on to win the Cup, to me, there's a little asterisk next to it. And I'm sorry, Capital fans, and I know you don't think that way, and if you win the Cup, you'll celebrate and you'll have your parade. To me, there'll be an asterisk because they didn't look good at all in this series. I thought they were going out early. I thought this series after the first two games was going to end very quickly. To me, if Washington goes on and wins the series and wins the Cup, little asterisks next to this, with Sidney Crosby going out the way he did, considering the Penguins won the Cup last year and knocked Washington out. With Washington's history in the playoffs, listen, to me there'll be an asterisk. So Washington fans, I'm sure you'll be giving me a big thumbs down on the YouTube thing, which, by the way, I can't stand that thumbs up and thumbs down thing. That thing is totally weak. I wish they would get rid of that. To me, that thing can go. But anyway, that is the story with that series. Tonight, New York Rangers will host Ottawa. Ottawa up 2-0. They took both home games. They came rallying back from 5-3 down with 3 minutes to go the last game. That was a tremendous win by Ottawa. That was an awful loss by the Rangers. Rangers should have had that game in the bag. This series should be 1-1 going back to the Garden and Rangers having home ice. Instead, it's 2-0 Ottawa, and the Rangers better win tonight or this is going to be a short series. Edmonton leads Anaheim 2-1. Home team is yet to win a game. Edmonton won the first two in Anaheim. Anaheim won the last game in Edmonton. Game 4 in Edmonton as well. And Nashville is leading St. Louis 2-1. Nashville won the last game at home. They have one more home game before they return to St. Louis. That is a very good series. So if the Rangers win tonight, all the series could be 2-1. So you're going to have some exciting stuff in the NHL. But like I said, the big story, Sidney Crosby. I mean, Penguins won the Cup last year. They were looking really good this year. They had the Capitals dead and buried for all intents and purposes. And that Crosby injury could really flip the whole NHL playoffs around. Hope he gets back. We'll keep an eye on it. But that is the story in the NHL right now. NBA Eastern Conference. Boston has a 1-0 lead against Washington. Boston exploded in the third quarter the other night to take game 1 of that series. Cleveland blew out Toronto in the second half, and they lead that series 1-0. Golden State and Utah will kick off tonight. Utah knocked out the Clippers. Same old Clippers. No Blake Griffin. They're going to have to break up that team. And how about Houston last night? Houston goes into San Antonio and just plasters the Spurs. Won by about, 27, 28 points. They just laid it on them. At one point in the second quarter, it was like a 30-point game. Houston, when they get those threes going, they are tough to beat. San Antonio, listen, I respect San Antonio. I love their history. I love the coach. I just don't think they have enough. And I had a lot of people argue with me this year when I said Golden State was going to win. They said, don't count out San Antonio. Listen, I never do. I think they just got too much age on the team. I mean, Gasol's old. Parker's old. Ginobili's old. I mean, Aldridge, he's a good player. He's not a great player. I mean, we all love Leonard, but I just don't think they have enough. But I never count San Antonio out. That's where you are in the NBA. I did watch... Or I should say, I did look at who got drafted in the NFL draft. I didn't watch much of the draft. I periodically peeked in. Let me say this. The Eagle fans in Philadelphia and all the fans that showed up were great. They had huge crowds every day. They had the draft outside. They did a great job, Philadelphia. The fans were great. They were into it. You had a lot of other fan bases there as well. It was a lot of fun for the fans that were there, I'm sure. But as far as the actual NFL draft, I mean, you got to be kidding me with some of this stuff. Every single pick, Kuiper and whoever else was doing the telecast, great pick, good fit, good 6th-round selection. The long snapper in the 7th round, good pick here, punter here, good offensive lineman here, fits in there, good pick there, good quarterback here. I mean, after a while, how much this stuff can you listen to? All the mock drafts that I heard for a month, they all blew up. I mean, no one knew anything as far as the mock drafts. They got them all wrong. They actually had a show on ESPN where they actually did a simulated draft. Like, they actually went through the whole draft, and they had people picking players, and then they'd review who they were picking, like a fake draft. I mean, are you kidding me? Mindless stuff. I mean, come on. And I'll tell you what. The guy the Chicago Bears picked in the for the second pick, the quarterback from North Carolina, he better be good because Chicago gave up a ton just to move up one spot, and I think they moved up with they traded places with the Niners. The Niners weren't even going to pick the quarterback from North Carolina. Chicago gave up all these picks just to move up one spot. I'll tell you what, the North Carolina quarterback better be good. I mean, what is Chicago doing? They look lost, but there's no rhyme or reason to this. You could get a star in the 5th round, and you could have a bust, for the first pick. The guy who was drafted first, I mean, a lot of people loved him. Warren Sapp said he was a lazy player. So how do you know this constant analysis with the NFL draft? Good pick. Great fit here. Fits a need. Good pick there. Great pick there. Mel Kiper. Good pick in the 6th round. Long snapper here. Fits in well. I mean, on and on and on. This was going on like a month straight. I mean, enough already. Oh, my goodness. It's too much already. But the fans in Philadelphia were great. Did watch some boxing over the weekend. I watched Anthony Joshua stop Klitschko in the 11th round at Wembley Stadium. Listen, the crowd at Wembley was great, but let's face it, Klitschko's like 110 years old. I mean, come on, he's getting up there in age. I mean, you got Alvarez and Chavez Jr. this weekend. I am not paying for that on pay-per-view. Chavez Jr. should not be a pay-per-view fight. I am sorry, I am not paying for Alvarez Chavez Jr. Alvarez should be fighting Triple G Golovkin. Instead, he's fighting Chavez Jr. I am not paying for that fight. All right, so there you go. You guys are all caught up. Of course, you got the Kentucky Derby this weekend as well. Always a lot of fun. I haven't really peeked at the horses yet this year. You got your Major League Baseball. You got your NHL. You got your NBA. A lot going on in the sports world. We'll keep an eye on that Sidney Crosby injury. You guys are all set. You guys are all caught up. You guys, thanks as always for the support. By the way, are there any sports fans out there or just guys that like to bet on the NFL during the regular season? I noticed during the regular season for the NFL, it was like 1 million people on board. I mean, it was all about betting games, betting regular season. I noticed even when the playoffs and the Super Bowl came around, not much going on. And now, what about no one likes the NHL? No one likes the NBA? No one likes Major League Baseball? No one likes the Derby? I mean, I know a few of you do, but it almost seems like it's all about NFL regular season betting. If it's not about that, then, who cares? I mean, is anyone actually a sportsman out there? I mean, it's just NFL regular season betting? Is that what it's come down to? I mean, I miss the NFL more than anybody, but I'm a sports fan. I mean, I love the NHL, I love the NBA, I like boxing, UFC, Kentucky Derby, but it seems like most people just like NFL regular season betting. They don't even like college football. They don't even like NFL playoffs or the Super Bowl. It's all about NFL regular season betting. So I guess a lot of you guys I won't hear from until September. Anyway, thanks as always for the support for the guys that have been watching, nonstop during the year. Pick a lot of winners, make a lot of money. I'll talk to you guys very, very soon. Take care.